We're going to have exam 3 on Monday. So before 2 o'clock Monday class time, please log on D2L. The test probably will be unlocked about 5 minutes before class time. You can either download the exam file or print it out from under activities, assignments, and you should have a exam 3 access folder. Okay, and you can either print it out and work it on the printed paper, or you can work it on your own paper. If you work on your own paper, please don't need to copy the question, because last time some of you write down all the question and it take too long. So to save time, just label your questions carefully and make sure you have your name on each page. Make sure you're doing it in an organized manner, meaning you will have number 1, number 2, number 3. You need to label your questions. So if I finish number 1 and I don't know how to do number 2, leave it blank, leave some space there, and then go on number 3. So after you finish the whole thing, you can go back to the blank one and fill in there. So if you mix it all of them together, it's very difficult to grade. So please don't do that, and make sure you show all the steps. So some of these questions, maybe you can solve it some other way, but if we don't see the step, you may just get 1 point. Like they're going to audit our exam, you will upload it. So if you don't have any steps, you don't get credits. So make sure show as much steps as you can, including the integral and any other questions on the test. Okay, very, very important. Make sure you sign and date the honest statements. I will give you ahead of time, so if you want to prepare that ahead of time, you can do that. You have 2 options on the survey ask you. You can either do it on paper, which most people did last time and they seem to did pretty well. I would recommend doing that. Or you can do it on MyLab. There's a review exercise on MyLab. You can try it out. Either way, even if you do it on MyLab, you need to show all the steps, otherwise you don't get credit. Okay, make sure you show all the steps for both of them. So before the test begins, you probably want to have plenty of paper. You have your pencil, eraser, and calculator ready. So you will be ready to get started. I went ahead and give you some extra time, 1 hour and 45 minutes to work on the exam. The exam should only last 1 hour and 15 minutes. So you should have time an extra 15 minutes for you to take pictures, use cam scanner to combine it as one file. When you take the picture, make sure your work is showing clearly. Some of you have blurry picture. If I cannot see your work, I cannot give you credit. Okay, so make sure the lighting is okay. Make sure you only cut it to your test light. I don't need to see your desk, your leg, or something like that. If I cannot read it, I cannot give you credit. So make sure you do that, and make sure you have all the pages. Sometimes people skip a page. Make sure they're in order and with all the pages with your names on it. I need it to be a single PDF file. Your class did pretty well, but some other classes will give me like individual picture file. It's almost impossible to grade online, and some of them they submit a file is upside down or sideways. So you need to understand, like I cannot print out all of them under this situation, so I have to grade on a touch screen, and it take me about 1 hour for 2 tests. So like it's very difficult to grade it. So the better you have the file is like going to help me to speed that up and get the grade back to you quickly. So when you're done, when you're ready to upload, you will go back to D2L, activities, assignments. There is a separate folder for you, because like the way D2L act is like if you upload it to the original folder, I cannot link it to your grade. So we create a separate file folder that say exam 3 submit folder. So you need to upload it back there. Okay, if you want into problem, you want to email it to me quickly. Some of you did it on a Word document. It got really big. It may not be able to email, so you want to make sure you submit it to a folder or use the app to scan it, so your file don't get too big for emailing. I need the timestamp by 4 o'clock, otherwise it will count as late and you may have to retake it. So do everything you know. Make sure you show all the steps as you can. Set your alarm by 3:45 and starting to scan and uploading. We will send you an email and you will tell me exactly when you're taking it, what version you're taking it, on the paper or my lab, so I need to prepare that for you. Okay, I think I uploaded this as a quiz for you to practice. Does not require you to turn it in. So if you want to check the answer, you can. You will have similar question on the test, and when you do the test with question like this, make sure you have some type of like steps. Some of them don't require steps. So for example, if you're taking integral of a number, basically just that number with x plus c, right? Because it's an indefinite integral. It doesn't have like an upper and lower limit, so you will add a c at the end for the constants. The second one, probably you don't need step for this, so it's going to be 1 over, it's 9 plus 1 here, right? So it's 10, and then the x, you waste 1 more power. Don't forget your c, like a lot of students forget the c. The next one is a number times x to some power. So probably you will you will pull the constant out and just take integral inside with the x to the 7th power. So again, it's going to be 1 over 7 plus 1, which is 8. And then the x will raise to 1 more power. So I probably would need to see like a step like that and a step like this. And then when you multiply them together, you get the answer, right? So again, you take integral is 1 over 7 plus 1, which is 8. And then the 7 exponent become 8, right? And don't forget your c. Alright, for number 4, you probably need to rewrite that as exponents first. So keyword is 1/3 power, and do the same thing. It's 1 over, your 1/3 need to plus 1, so it's 3 over 3. So same thing with the x exponents, right? It's going to be 1/3, and this is 3 plus 3 over 3. So we got like 1 over 4/3 for my constant, and the x is 4/3. So when you have 1 over, basically you flip the fractions, right? So it's going to be 3 over 4, x 4 over 3. Don't forget your c. Alright, so hopefully you did practice with this question and just checking the answer. 1 over x is the one sometimes people get confused. Don't change it to x to the -1, because 1 over x, when you take integral, it will turn it back to ln of x, okay? Plus c. E to the x is just e to the x plus c. So those are the basic one. You may have some questions like this. Some of them may not require steps. Some of them may require some step, like number 3 and 4 would require some steps. So make sure you show the step for question like that. So you will get full credits. Alright, so the next one is still a indefinite integral, because it doesn't have lower limits and upper limits, right? So for this one, we do one term at a time. It looked like the one with more complicated denominator, we should rewrite them with exponents, right? So this is like in the denominator, so it's going to be -1/2 power. This is like -3 power, right? So using that, we're going to take one term at a time. And then the first one, you can pull out a 5. This is 1 over 4 plus 1, x raised to 4 plus 1, right? And the second one is 1 over, you have a -1/2 power. You need to add 1, so 2 over 2. Same thing with the x exponents. And the last one is going to be, you have a -2 as the constant, 1 over, this is the -3, add a 1 for the denominator, and then same for the x exponent. So you will need to show me some step to clean that up. The answer for this is x to the 5th power 2x to the 1/2 power x to the -2 power plus 2 plus c, sorry, and then the -2 cannot be answer, right? We cannot have a negative exponent, right? So you rewrite that as x to the 5th. This is 2 square root of x, and negative power mean is in the denominator, and don't forget your c for the indefinite integral without lower and upper limits. Okay, the next question on the practice quiz, we have this. So this looks very complicated, and we don't really have like quotient rule for the integral, right? So we actually need to do the substitution for that. So make sure on the test you show me what did you substitute, what is your u and what is your du. So for question like this, which is substitution part, I need to see the u and your du and how you come up with them. So like you cannot just give me the answer, that is not going to be okay. So this particular one, basically we separate them with the denominator and the numerator with dx, right? So the denominator part we set as du, and then we take du both sides. So du meaning you take the derivative of this, which is 10x minus 6 dx. So you have that, and it doesn't look like this guy, 5x minus 3, right? But you can divide both sides by 2, then it would be 5x minus 3. So you do that. So 1/2 du equal to 5x minus 3 dx. So using these two, we kind of substitute to change it to, this is u to the -1 power, and this whole part is my du, right? Okay, so you have a coefficient here, you pull that out. U to the -1 power mean 1 over u, right? 1 over u is going to turn into ln. So you have that, and then plus a c, and don't forget u was supposed to be this, right? So you plug it back into your functions to get that. So, and it's the indefinite integral, so don't forget to make a c plus c at the end. So this is the quiz that I post on D2L. You can practice and you can double check the answer with that. All right. Okay. Next we're looking at an integral book like that. There are two ways to approach this. There's a shortcut and a regular way, because this is considered like a chain here with substitution. So the regular way is let u equal to 5x, and then du would be 5dx, right? And I don't have a 5 here, so they divide 5 both sides, 1/5 du equal to dx. And using that, they're going to substitute it in, like my 5x is my u, and then my dx turn into, started with e5x dx, right? So my 5x turned into u, and the dx turned into 1/5 du, right? And you pull out the 1/5 outside and take integral of e to the u, which is just e to the u, you add your c, and then we replace my u back with 5x, right? So that's the answer. But the shortcut for this is like it worked for all the e to some power, is that if this is like a function 5x, then what you can do is you can do 1 over 5, and then this would be just e to the 5x plus c. So if it's a simple function like this, you can do the shortcut like that. Okay, let's do another example. So if we're starting with questions that is like definite integral, so if you look at your exam reviewed solution that I uploaded to D2L, like something like that, this is a definite integral because it has the lower and upper limits, right? And you take integral of these individual terms here. So after you take the integral, the first term is 1/2 x to the 4. You take the second term, it's going to be minus x cubed plus x, right? So we show the step here. Like once you took the integral, that integral sign is gone, and then the upper and lower limits go to the end like this, right? So this means I'm going to need to plug in my upper limit 2 to where x is, subtracting the whole thing that you plug in 0, right? So we always like 0 because when we plug in 0, meaning you multiply to 0 for each term, so the whole thing will turn into 0. That's awesome, right? But then you plug in the 2 for the first parts and then clean it up, your answer is 2. So this is a really basic definite integral questions. Let's do another one. Like this one. So if we are doing that, so this is something that is not basic, right? Because I have a term here with to the third power, which means that I will have to apply some kind of substitution, right? So this part is going to set as my u. So u is going to be my x to the 4th plus 5, right? And then I take du of that. Du. So make sure you show all the steps on the test. This is 4x cubed dx. Oh, they have it here, so that's awesome. Which means that all I need to do is put them in order. So when I do this, when I turn the regular step to u, I also need to change the new limits, right? So don't forget to show that on the test. So one of them was x equal to 2. One of them is x equal to 0. If I need to turn them to u, I know it's x to the 4 plus 5, right? So this is going to be 2 to the 4 plus 5. 2 to the 4 plus 5 is going to be 16 plus 5, which is 21 for my new upper limits. So 21 here. And then u equal to 4 times, I'm sorry, not 4, 0 to the 4 plus 5. So that's just 5, right? So my new lower limit is 5. And then this part is u, so u to the third power. And this part for x cubed dx will turn into du, right? Okay, so I can take the integral here, which is 1 over 3 plus 1 is 4, and then u, 3 plus 1 is 4. And then after I took the limits, the integral, we can plug in the number, right? So, and I don't need c because it's a definite integral and it's going to cancel out, right? So 1/4, we can just like pull the 1/4 out. U to the 4th power, plug in 21, subtracting u to the 4th power, plug in 5, like that. So you probably need a calculator for that. 21 raised to the 4th power, subtracting 5 raised to the 4th power is going to be a really big number, divided by 4, right? 193856 divided by 4 is going to be 48,464. So this is another definite integral questions, but this one we have to do substitutions because this is like a function raised to the 3rd power. Okay, so that's another example. On your reviewed the solution that I upload to you, let's look at another one together. One of the questions, let me see, will ask you to find the area under the curve. So the area under the curve between -1 and 2, meaning you have to take integral of these functions, and that's your lower limit, that is your upper limit. This one doesn't require any substitution because I don't have a function raised to a power, I just x to the 2nd power. So I just take it like a regular integral for each term. So I show my steps, I clean that up. Once I'm done with the integral, then I can plug in my upper limit, subtract my lower limit, right? And we do that, so don't forget like you're subtracting all of this, so they're all together. And then the answer would be 15 because this is area, so it's going to be unit square. Okay, so that was number 15 on your paper reviews, which I also upload the solution to you, right? Let's see what else I can show you. Let's do another definite integral together. So this one, just taking individual terms. So the first one would be 8 times 1 over 4x to the 4, right? Plus 8 times 1 over 1 plus 1 is 2. So x at 1 is 2 plus 10x, right? And then this whole thing, after you take the integral, you will need to plug in 1 and -1 and you subtract the 2, right? So let's clean that up. This would be 2x to the 4th plus, reduce it, that would be 4x squared plus 10x, and I need to plug in the upper limit, subtract the lower limits, right? So let's do that. That would be 2 times something to the 4th power, 4 times something squared, plus 10 times something. I need to plug in my upper limits. And then this whole thing, subtracting the lower limit part, right? So again, we are going to have 2 to the something 4 power, plus 4 times something squared, plus 10 times something, right? And my lower limit is -1. Okay, so once you're done with taking integral, plug in the upper limits to the whole thing, subtracting the lower limits of the whole thing, right? Alright, so let's clean that up. This is just 2 plus 4 plus 10, subtracting 2 plus 4 minus 10, right? Okay, so the first part we got a 16, the second part minus 2 plus 4 is 6, minus 10 is a -4, like that. So 16 plus 4 equal to 20. Alright, so this is a definite integral, doesn't come with c. After you take the integrals, plug in the upper limits, subtract the lower limits. Alright. If you look at your paper reviews, number 12, look at your solutions. You may have questions like this on the test, that they give you a marginal cost functions, and then you need to find the cost function, and they give you the price of the machines, and also they want to ask the cost to produce 400 units. So because they give you the marginal, which is the derivative of it, so to find the cost function, you take the antiderivative of the functions, go through the steps, clean it up with the c, because it's an indefinite integral. It didn't have the lower limits and upper limits, right? So the c in the cost function is like the cost here, that they give you the fixed cost. You put in $500 here. So once you take the antiderivative and put in the cost, that's your cost function. And then they want to know 400 units, so you just plug in 400 to your cost function to find how much it's going to cost to produce 400 units, okay, per day. So you may have a question like that. You also may have a question that I give you the graph, and then you need to find the area. So remember, we say the one above the x-axis, you will add those area, they are positive. The area underneath the x-axis is going to be subtracting, it would be negative, right? So the first one say B to D, so from B to D, it looked like we have C on top positive, D at the bottom is negative, so we're going to have the positive area C minus the area D, right? So area C is 2, subtracting area D is 0.6, so the answer is 1.4. And B say from A to C, so A is here, C is here. I know it's hard to see, but you have a copy of this at home. So A to C, so the B would be negative, and below the x-axis, the C would be positive above the x-axis, right? So B is -2, C is adding 2, so actually that would be 0. So you will have some question also like that. Let's do some more. So if I give you a question that give you a price function, and ask you to find revenue function. So how do we find revenue from price? Revenue equal to price times x units, right? So if we have my price is 400 minus 0.4x, then I need to multiply the whole thing with x. So together I'm going to get 400x. So my r of x will equal to 400x minus 0.4x squared, which is like a negative quadratic function. This is x squared, is a quadratic parabola. Negative mean open down, right? So I know this graph is an open down parabola. So for this particular exam, I don't want you to solve the answer with just parabola. It will ask you to solve it using the derivative. So they want to know what is the maximum revenue and how many units do you need to sell to get the maximum revenue. So you will need the first derivative to get the critical value. So outline of x would be just 400 minus 0.04 times 2x, right? I'm taking the derivative. So outline of x would be 400 minus 0.8x. Sorry, 0.08x. Hold on. I copied it wrong. Sorry. It was 0.4 here. So it was 0.4 here. I just see it. And then so 0.4 times 0.2 is 0.8x. Alright, so that's my first derivative. If I set it equal to 0, I can get the critical number. So 400 equal to 0.8x. So divided by 0.8, x is going to be 500 units. So to maximize my revenue, I will have to sell 500 units. And then I need the maximum point, so I need the second derivative, which is just negative 0.8. So if we plug in double derivative 500, there's nowhere to plug in, right? So I got a negative number. So when you have a negative number, it means concave down, right? So you will have a maximum point. So this is just showing you have a maximum point. They will ask you to use this derivative, so you will have to show me that. To find the maximum revenue, I know I need to sell 500 units, so I can plug it back to my R of x, right? So R of 500 is going to be 400x minus 0.4x squared, right? So plug in 500 here. So put in your calculator, that would be $100,000. So my maximum revenue is $100,000 when I sell 500 units, okay? And the price for the maximum revenue. So the price equation was 400 minus 0.4x, right? So price would be 400 minus 0.4 times 500 units, right? So together, the price of this machine is going to be $200 per unit. All right. So I know you can just find the vertex on the parabola, but this particular question asks you to find the derivative. Okay. Okay, another question you may see on the test will give you a marginal profit functions, and they want you to find the, let me see, total change of profit between 10 to 10 to 30 units. So we're going to use an integral to do it, and this would be my lower and upper limit. Okay, so I started with p prime of x. To get the p of x, we're going to need to take the antiderivative, right? So p of x is going to take the integral of p of x dx. So the profit function is going to be taking an integral. from 10 units to 30 units, my profit function was 120 minus x over 8. So I need to take integral of that. It's going to be 120x and then minus, this is 1/8, right? And the x guy is going to be 1 over 2x squared, right? After I take the integral, I'm going to need to plug in 30 and 10. Let me clean that up real quick. So that would be 120x minus 1 over 16x squared, right? And I need to plug in 30 and 10. So it's going to be 120, 30 minus 1 over 16 times 30 square, and then subtracting 120 times 10 minus 1 over 16, 10 square, right? Okay, so not done yet, and one other paper, so let me add some paper here. So if you put into the calculator, we will have 3600 minus 56.25 minus 1200 minus 6.25. So this is just basic arithmetic. 3543.75 minus 1193.75. Together we have 2350. So the change of profits between 30 units to, from 10 to 30 units is going to be $2,350. So if they ask you to write an answer statement, that's how it will go. The change of profits between the production of 10 to 30 units is going to be $2,350. All right. Okay, this is the last part of the reviews. One of the questions will ask you to find the average value. This formula will be given to you, but when you read the questions, you need to recognize this is trying to find the average value. So this particular question say this is the rate of time, rate over time for the membership growth between year 0 to 2. They want you to find the average rate growth for this, so we plug into the average rate value functions. So the b is your upper limit to year 2 minus the a is your lower limit year 0, and then you take integral of the function. So again, you start from year 0 to 2, you put in the function there, right? So this is the basic taking integral, and then you plug in your upper limit 2, subtracting your lower limit 0, to find out that each year the average growth is going to be 3, and this is like in million members, so 3 million member per year growth over year 0 to 2, which is 2010 to 2012. So this is for the average value function. Formula will be given to you, but you need to know this is the formula to use for that questions. The very last part is the consumer surplus and producer surplus. So also this formula will be given to you. You just need to know, okay, they're asking consumer surplus, I need to find that CS formula. So this is the formula. All of these questions, you will first need to find the x value, which is your upper limit. So you have a demand function price here, and they told you the price is 120. So you can set the price equal to the demand price functions to solve for x, which is the upper limit you need to plug in here. So very, very important. Your first step would be finding the upper limit x value. Finding that, and then they say put your demand function here, so I put my demand functions, minus p is your price, so we put your price here. So now you can combine like term first and take the integrals and then plug in the upper limit, subtract the lower limit, which is 0, that's great, and then you found out the consumer surplus is this answer. So this is your paper review number 23. You can double check on that. Last questions we will talk about is the producer surplus. So this one, they give you the supplies price functions. They give you the price. So again, the first step, you need to find your upper limit, which is the x values, right? So you use your price, set it equal to that price function. So for x, we got plus minus 300. So this is price with the x units, so x units cannot be negative, so we pick the positive 300 as my upper limits, and the lower limit would be 0. And then you put your price 20 here with the p, subtracting, be careful, you're subtracting the whole price function here. Make sure your negative distribute to each term. So combine like terms, take integrals, plug in the upper limits, subtracting the lower limits, which is 0. You'll end up with the answer, which is your producer surplus is $3,600. So again, this is from your paper review. I send you the solution also. This is number 24. All right.